Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Hi everyone. Welcome to the session. The session is about SBR group accounts practice question series with new exam format. Particularly with this series of sessions, we will cover Specimen 1, question number 1, Chuckle. Along with, we will also cover the SBR Exam Success Rules. SBR Exam Success Rules as well. I am Hussain Qazi, the facilitator for the subjects ACCA, SBR, AFM and FM. So let's start the session. Student, the session's agenda based on two parts. Number one, we will cover SBR Exam Success Rules. Number two, we will cover SBR Specimen 1. That's question 1, the name Chuckle. So let's start the SBR Exam Success Rule. The prime rule for the SBR exam success is that the student must have a great plan of attack. Must have a great plan of attack. Before execution of the exam paper, you must have a great plan of attack. And whatever I will advise with respect of this rule, what you should do, you must have to apply these rules with all the SBR pass exam papers. And you will feel the difference. May Allah willing, you will feel the difference. Now come on, sir, what includes the plan of attack? That's how we will plan our questions, our exams. Now come on. SBR exam success rule, that means plan of attack, includes two parts, two things. Number one, you need to plan with respect to the time. That's called time management. And number two, you need a good plan about the marks. That's called marks management. So time management, marks management. That's two things you need to make a plan for this before starting the question. For time management, the rule is 20-80. For marks management, the rule is mind mapping. So we will discuss the things with these 2 points. Rule 1, rule 2. Come on, rule 1. Rule 1. Invest your exam time. Your exam time 3 hours. Your exam time 180 minutes. With the rule 20-80. The examining team recommendation is that first of all, the student must have to plan the answer and reasonably invest time, ideally 20%. So 20% planning time includes your mind, your brain works for 20%. Number one, reading. You know, reading is an art. And how to learn that reading is an art, we will cover this thing. Number two, understanding. Read the question, understanding the requirement very carefully. Understanding the requirement, what examiner expect from you. And compose your mind. Compose. Your mind must be very much focused, not scattered. Read, understand, compose your mind. First, you must show that I've invested reasonable time, that's 20%, and read the question carefully, understand the requirement according to the examiner expectation, compose the mind, then start investment time for drafting and assembling your answer, ideally the 80%. Students, I strongly suggest whatever advice I'm providing here, you have to invest your time. You have to invest your time with your practice questions of the SBR from September 18 onwards, you will feel the difference with respect to the performance of SBR. That is rule number one. But for this rule number one, before moving towards the execution, be careful. You have invested carefully 20% for the 80% execution. And finally, be careful. Be careful. You have read and understand the requirement according to the examiner expectation. So read and understand the requirement very carefully. Very carefully. Okay, the next rule, marks management. The next rule, marks management. The rule number 2, mind mapping. Mind mapping means before starting the question, you have to jot down or plan your key points in this manner. Focus this picture. What this lady is doing. That's developing the mindset, mind mapping. Plan your key points. Arrange the points. Compose your mind. That's very much important. So first, whatever you have read, the requirement and understanding the requirement and the question, you have to develop some key points in your mind before starting the questions. Whenever you are developing your mindset, that's called mind mapping. That's rule 2. The support you required here, that's called drafting rules. Drafting rules. Sir, what is the meaning of this drafting rules? Drafting rules. With SBR exams, based on past paper analysis, examiner normally ask 2 type of drafting things. Number 1, drafting technique number 1. The first thing, if examiner asking about, if the question about knowledge application. So here, you just recall the SBR syllabus content. There are 5 syllabus content of SBR. All accounting standards, IAS, IFRS, including group accounts. Number 2, ethics. Number 3, current developments. Number 4, conceptual framework. Number 5, performance measurement. So 5 areas of syllabus. Syllabus 5 areas. So examiner asking any syllabus area. For example, accounting standard. Let's say IAS 36. The case about IAS 36, knowledge and application. Impairment aspects. All these things. If the question about knowledge and application, the rule is K plus A. K plus A. KA. That's number 1. Let's suppose IAS 36. You just start writing about your knowledge or concept. For example, IAS 36, if examiner asking about ethics, just start writing about ethics or any other area of syllabus. Number 2, first, initially you refer the knowledge. Number 2, apply the knowledge. Means apply that knowledge with respect to the case study. Refer the name of the case and apply your knowledge. Connect the case. Connect knowledge with the case. So this is K plus A. But very important point here. Whenever you are writing the knowledge, 2 things bear in your mind. You can use your own wordings. It's not necessary. It's not compulsory that you have to write exactly the accounting standard wordings. For example, if you are drafting IAS 36 impairment aspects, You can use own words, not necessarily exactly use the accounting standard words. Same thing apply for other areas of the syllabus as well. Number two, if the question about accounting standard, for example, IS 36 name is IS 36 impairment of asset. So for writing, you just mention the name IS 36. If you're performing for IFRS 9, just mention IFRS 9. Don't mention the complete name, financial instrument and all these things. Just mention the number. Even if you are not recalling exactly the number, you just mention according to the accounting standard. So first, the knowledge, and then second point, application. For application, I strongly suggest for application, just get rid this fear. If I am going to apply or connect with the case, something become wrong. No worries. Just apply, just connect with the case, and do practice as much as possible. And with the examination, at the point of application, you must be fearless. Just get rid from the fear and do your best with the application. Examiner never expecting the accuracy of the application. Examiner just wanted to check that you have an ability to apply the concept or not. It's nothing about right or wrong. That's the first point. That's drafting technique 1. Drafting technique 2. If question about working explanation, for example, examiner is saying that calculate the impairment loss and explain. So this is something about working and explanation of the working. That's a second type of question examine here based on past paper analysis. The rule is explain the facts. Whatever you have calculated with impairment. Another example, whatever you have calculated with goodwill, just make interpretation. Simple interpretation of the facts. Whatever you have done with the calculation, just interpret. So this is the second rule. So compile all these things. SBR Exam Rules. Rule number 1, 20/80 time management. 20% you have to invest for the planning. For the planning to develop quality answer. Rule number 2. That's 20/80. Rule number 2. Rule number 1, 20/80, and be careful. Planning includes reading, understanding, and composing. And make sure you have understand all components of the requirements. Rule number 2, marks management. That's called mind mapping. Recall the picture of the lady. That's some imagination in your mind. Here, mind mapping, drafting, technique 1, T1 technique 1, K plus A, knowledge plus application. Drafting technique 2, interpret the facts if the examiner asking working explanation. That's SBR exam rule. Now, apply all these rules with an example. Let's take one example. It's not any specific to the case study. It's a basic example. For example, you are attempting somewhere 7 marks question, and there are 2 requirements with the 7 marks. Number 1, read it carefully. Why investment in H company? For example, ABC company is the case study. ABC company. So with respect to ABC company, here the question is that why investment in H company should be classified as an associate. 4 marks. Number 2, explain how each company should be accounted for as an associate using the equity method in consolidated statement of financial position. 3 marks. So this is what a basic example. Let's apply all the rules. Rule number 1, 2080. Time management 2080. First, so I must be very much careful for this complete 7 marks question. I have total 100 marks to attempt the question. Total time 180 minutes. So 1.8 minutes per mark. 1.8 minutes per mark for each mark. For this 7 marks question, 7 marks multiplied by 1.8 minutes for each mark, I have 13 minutes. So I will invest 20% time, that 3 minutes, for reading, understanding and composing my mind. Number 3, 80% time for, that's 10 minutes, for drafting and assembling the answer. So that is the first rule. That's the first rule. And I must be very much committed that I have to perform these things within 13 minutes. Number 2, that's a time management. That's done. Huh? Another point, mind mapping. Rule number 2, mind mapping. The first question, why investment in each company should be classified as an associate? First of all, be careful. After reading the question, the requirement, ask yourself, is my understanding very much clear according to the examiner expectation? The examiner expectation that, here examiner expecting that I have to write something about associate. When any investment treat as associate, so I have to show some, I have to draft some knowledge here about associate, whatever accounting standard says with IS 28. That's knowledge. And also need to apply with the case that the accounting standard investment associates criteria meets or not. So that's the question about knowledge and application. Knowledge and application. So that's what understanding of the requirement. Very clear. And develop your mind. Here, knowledge application. Develop your mind. How to develop your mind? I will jot down the points. First, I will make a basic draft about the knowledge. That make a reference of IS 28 SI, that's significant influence. With my own wording, I will mention that if investment in equity in each company and the investor become able to participate for the operating and financing decisions, that reflect the significant influence. And we can treat or we can account for the investment in each company as investment in associate with my own wordings. Ideally, mention IS 28, investment in associate and joint venture. You don't need to mention the complete name. You just refer IS 28. Even not recalling the name IS 28, just mention according to the accounting standard. And drafting with your own wordings about the knowledge. Then, that's the point. First, extract IFRS or IS, that's associate, own wordings. In case of IAS or IFRS, just mention IAS 28. Number 2, application. Connect the knowledge with the case. That's called application of IAS 28. And conclude that is this investment, is this the is this a case that the company should account for as associate, yes or no? So that is what the drafting rule 1. Next point, the drafting technique 2. The another 3 marks question. Explain how each company should account it for associate using equity method in consolidated statement of financial position. Here examiner expect that you have to calculate the equity accounting, and its calculation, it's not the requirement here. The requirement is to explain the facts. Explain the facts. So here equity accounting means first you take the investment associate value at the date of investment plus post acquisition share of movement in net assets including profit and OCI of associate, and make other adjustment like impairment and the other intra investment or intra group transactions. So this is what about the format normally you do. Okay, so that's about the calculation that you normally do with the F7 exam. That's already done. But here examiner expect not just to calculate but also explain. So here the rule is explain the facts. Explanation of your working, that's called explain the equity accounting working. Instead only show the calculations. Not only to show the calculations, but you have to explain. That's the examiner expectation. So you have to jot down the point that yes, whenever I will draft the question, I have to explain my working, not only show the calculation. That's simply interpretation of the equity accounting facts. So that is the application with an example about the rule number 1, 2080. Rule number 2, mind mapping. So exam success rule, final slide. Rule number 1, time management 2080. And be careful. 20% you need to invest for reading, understanding, composing, and make sure you have understand all components of requirements. Rule number 2, marks management, mind mapping. Apply drafting technique 1, K plus A. Drafting technique 2, interpret the facts, that's working explanation. My last words, apply all these rules with the practice questions of SBR past exams, and you will feel the difference. And also apply with the mock exams. If you do your practice in this pathway, you will be able to get success of SBR exam. I can assure you, as a human being, I cannot guarantee you. May Allah, may God definitely provide you success. But I can assure you based on my past experience that if you do that, you will not just able to get 50, but even to get distinctions. Thank you very much. Take care a lot and wait for the another video. Assalamu alaikum.